Hello, and let's get started on talking about the analysis of fit. Okay, so why do you need to do this funder analysis of fit? So first, it's really important to know that this is not required for grant applications. So when you're out in the real world submitting your first grant application, you're not going to be attaching a funder analysis of fit. This is simply a required appendix for this class. It's your way of demonstrating that you've researched potential funders and then selected one that is the best fit to write your cover letter to. So here's the requirements. Again, we're going to ask that you identify 3 potential funders that you could write your grant to, but you're going to pick one of those 3 to address in your cover letter. And for each funder, we're going to ask you to, and this is in worksheet format, we're going to ask you to simply list the name, the website link, a bullet point around evidence of geographical fit. For example, they fund agencies in Colorado, nonprofit agencies in Colorado. Provide some evidence that they fund your target population or issue, and give one example of a previous grantee. Again, we're looking for very concise writing here, and it's going to end up being just a few sentences per funder, again in worksheet form, which I'll explain. Okay, so first, what is a funder? This might be at the state or national level, and you could have either for this proposal, although most people are going to be having state funders. These might be individual or family foundations, community foundations, or corporation foundations, and I will talk through each of these with you. All right, so individual family foundation examples. Some here in Colorado are the Daniels Fund, the A.B. Hunter Trust Foundation, or the Anschutz Family Foundation. All of these are family or foundations associated with individuals or families who are wealthy, who are either alive or deceased. And basically, they are nonprofit organizations that are designed to administer the charitable giving of an individual or a family. And so if you establish a foundation, then under federal law, you must give 5% of your market value asset of 5% of your market value assets or your interest income each year, whichever amount is greater. And so then, there's tax, benefits or whatever associated with this too. And so, for example, Bill Daniels is a Colorado businessman who accumulated a lot of money, wanted to give it back, established a foundation. And so then each foundation has their specific areas of focus. And so you can see those listed here. And we're going to teach you how to search for foundations and what their areas of funding interest are. Here's some example of community foundations in Colorado. And so community foundations are ones that anybody can donate to. So for example, any of us could donate to the Women's Foundation of Colorado, the Colorado Health Foundation, or the Rose Community Foundation. They are big, they are foundations that pull together lots of individual donors' money and then decide how to spend it. And so you can see here that each of these community foundations in Colorado has different things that they focus in on. And then the last category is corporation foundation examples. And so these are some local big or statewide big organizations here in Colorado that also have a charitable arm. So it of course has its normal for-profit corporation, but it also has established a foundation where again it donates up to 5% or donates a minimum of 5% of its assets or interest earned each year. And foundations are usually, or corporation foundations are usually pretty specific in what they fund, often not so wide. Probably the least likely type of foundation you would use. So how are you going to find funders? You're going to go to the HDFS 492 library course page. I've got a little screenshot of it there, and you're going to choose one of 2 ways. If you're in Colorado, then you're going to be choosing the Grants West website to search for funders in Colorado. If you're not in Colorado, then you might prefer, or you might prefer, even if you are in Colorado, to try the Google Advanced Search. And in the library session Finding Funders handout and video, there are search tips for how to use both of these websites. So here's an example of the Anschutz Family Foundation. You know, search their website, you get to their website, I should say, through either the Google search or the Grants West. And then you click on, a tab that talks about funding or grants or opportunities or something like that. And they provide information about who they fund, right? And these are their grant funding areas. And then many sites are going to list their past grants. You might be, otherwise you could always Google search that as well. And then so you could click on that to see who they funded in the past and whether or not that's similar to you. For this class, you don't have to worry about application deadlines. So you might have said, your program is starting in May, but this is due in June. And so, oh my gosh, the timing of that isn't going to work, but you do not have to worry about that in this class, but you would in real life. And so then I mentioned this worksheet, so you don't have to write this up in paragraph form. You could if you prefer, but you can just complete the Funder Analysis of Fit worksheet, which is on Canvas, where you just quickly list all of that information here. And then you're going to, again, insert it into an appendix to your final proposal, not in your actual final proposal. Lastly, what if your agency that you're pretending to be is actually a for-profit agency? This is a new option that we're offering in HDFS 492 that you might be able to write a for-profit proposal. So it's not technically a grant proposal, but it's still a proposal for funding. So for example, you could be one of Columbine Health's local facilities, and you could be proposing that you're at the LeMay Avenue facility, but you're writing a proposal to the larger Columbine Corporation to fund your evidence-based program at your specific facility. So basically, you wouldn't qualify, right, for grant funding. However, we want you to still practice finding potential funders, even though you wouldn't be able to use them if this was what you were doing in real life. But that way you have this practice for when you go out in the world and you are working at a nonprofit and you're searching for funders. So go ahead and pretend just for the analysis of fit that you're a nonprofit and you're looking for 3 potential funders. However, for your cover letter, you're not going to write to one of these 3 funders. You're going to go ahead and address your cover letter to the for-profit parent organization for your local agency. So there's quite a few resources. We've talked about them all already: the workbook, the worksheet, the library course page, and the library handout on searching tips, as well as the proposal checklist.